I'm going to go back to percentiles again, so you can see that. And again, I've got this long tail. What this did is this began a conversation in our school about our admissions policy. I was able to take this data to the board and say, listen, they were very concerned about our median scores. And they said, why aren't your median scores here? I said, well, we have a tail here. And this is your admissions policy right here. We have a relatively open admissions policy. We accept most students in our school with generally only mild learning disabilities and so on. And I said, if you want to move this up, you've got to deal with this issue or not. And this is your call. So what this did is this used data to show the board that they needed to deal with a policy issue. Very cleanly. I want to move into one particular session. What you can do in Tinkerplots is you can add filters. Filters simply narrows down your data set. And what I want to do is simply look at just one term, which is our most recent term. And these are our actual data. And you just go term fall 2010. So there's that data set. And I want to show you percentile here. And I want to show your test name here. So now I'm going to break down map a little bit more. I want to break down map a little bit more and look at the individual tests. Let's move it a little bit more. It's very flashy. It's fun.
So Scott, Tinkerplots will do this with any Excel. And the trick is, this is just taking the map stuff into Excel.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But that's very easy to do.
Yeah,
well, you already get that. I don't know if you know, Scott, but you can just download the comprehensive data file as a flat file, and it has it already.
Yep. That's what that was.
Yeah. Okay.
That's exactly what that was.
So you didn't have to create
your
own Excel spreadsheet.
No.
You just want to make sure that.
No, map is lovely. You just download the file. That file I showed you a moment ago is the direct download from NWEA. I didn't touch this. The only thing I did is delete the column that had the student's name in it for our presentation day. No, Shoshana, it's beautiful. No, you don't have to do anything.
And you can do, just our school, we use the multiple measures. So we had the quarter grades, we did load our IB in. And then you can compare your data against. We
Absolutely.
also loaded ELL students and students who were receiving learning support, so you can disaggregate by those populations.
Absolutely.
Different colors.
Brilliant.
You could give them a different color if you want. I'm actually, the last data set I want to show you is when you start comparing different data sets. I'm showing MAP versus PSAT, but you can load in whatever you want. That's very easy to do. You can give it to your IT department, or you can give it to, it's just data entry. You can give it to a secretary and just have them loaded in. It's very easy to do.
And at any point you can trigger or toggle back between either RIT or percentile.
Sure. Anything you want. It's just a tool. So I showed this to my board and they immediately said, what's wrong with your math department? And I said, well, we have some issues here and so on. And again, it's a very visual approach. So now I'm breaking it down by the particular tests that we have. We noticed we had a low median in math. For those of you that like a little bit more mathematics, you can show some box plots here.
But again, this is over 4 testing sessions.
No, I'm filtering here. I'm only on fall 2010 right now.
And also, you cannot calculate medians or means on percentile ranks. It's not interval data.
No.
So just a caution there.
Yeah.
If you're putting percentiles up, those median and mean numbers are meaningless. And actually, they're grossly inaccurate. You might want to go back just to the RIT scores, which are really powerful pieces, as you said earlier.
Yeah, the RIT scores are much more useful, absolutely. No, because the percentiles can be deceiving, I agree, Bill. But a lot of times I like percentiles only because people understand them.
Oh no, fine. I'm just saying, mathematically, you cannot calculate an average or a median on a percentile rank because it's ordinal data. It is not interval data. You cannot perform mathematical calculations on non-linear data that is not interval. The spaces between each data point are not the same size.
Correct. You can do other calculations.
Not on percentile ranks, you cannot.
Okay. I'll move on. We can have a good math talk later. you can do these as well. Let's go back to RIT, Bill, and look at RITs. And what I wanted to do here is show you simply that if you have these data, you can show very clearly what's going on with some of these students. Obviously, higher RIT scores are generally the older students. You can see that visually here. The darker colors are the older students in upper grades. So obviously, because RIT's an absolute score, the older students generally should have a higher RIT.
Can you find a student, for instance, you have student 1408 there in reading, and if you ask, where is that student in math?
Yeah, you can. You can. It's not quite so obvious or easy, but you can.
So Scott, what question does this answer at a higher level?
Answers lots of questions. I'd like to show one of them, Shoshana, which is the rate of change of RIT over grade levels, because that's something NWEA has some averages that we should be meeting. So one thing it can answer is average number of increased RIT points per grade level. So that's what I sort of want to get to, and maybe we'll just jump to that quickly. So I'm just going to have to set this up for a second. Again, because I don't have PowerPoint, I have to do this live. I have RIT score on the x-axis, and I'm going to put grade level on the y-axis here. And I'm going to get rid of these silly box plots here. And the medians, Bill, get rid of those. And there what you have is simply RIT score on the x-axis and grade name on the y-axis. And in general, obviously the RIT scores go up, but a lot of overlap. I don't know if anybody else sees that in their school, but it's a lot of overlap. It's quite a wide range. And if you flip these axes quickly, again, Tinkerplots is a very simple program. If you want to do some higher level calculations, Tinkerplots is not the program to use. But you can draw some general trends, and you can draw some lines pretty simply. And this is not a calculation, this is just drawing, but it gives you some sense. And if you draw some lines, you can see here that, we're roughly going up by about 6 RIT points per grade. Now again, over a huge range. But it does give you a starting point. And that's not too far off from what, and Shoshana, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not too far off from what NWEA recommends or sees as a general trend. Now actually, it's not a linear thing. If you go to read NWEA, it's supposed to be a curve. You're supposed to increase more RIT points in the elementary than you are going up further from what I was reading. But it does give you some sense. It's supposed to curve a little bit, but this is not curving. One last thing I wanted to show on math before I move on to grades. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another filter. I'm just going to look at reading. And this equals reading here. And I'm going to go and show RIT on the x-axis here. And I'm going to show percentile on the y-axis. Get rid of this silly line here. And I find this picture interesting. I don't profess to have any answers to this picture, but I think it's an interesting picture. Only because you can see a general shape here, and you can see that at the upper end there's definitely a cluster, which leads me to understand, unless somebody can correct me, that when you get to these upper percentiles, there's a larger RIT range than a percentile range. They tend to bunch up there. Whereas in the middle range, it's much more of a discriminator. It's an interesting picture. I'm going to move on to grades. I have only an hour, and I want to show you a few more data sets.